The royals' walk to church ritual on Christmas Day has evolved from a happy, festive airing of the firm into what can often be a slightly heady, almost toxic tightrope walk in terms of rifts, exclusions, who's not allowed to go with them, etc., and even royal pecking order. The 2 years that Harry and Meghan joined the royals for this event saw what I've picked out in body language terms as several secret, suppressed cues of growing spare-based resentment during the first year that erupted into a very awkward, very formal denial ritual the next year. So back in 2017, we've got Harry and Meghan appearing as this glowing, newly engaged couple, showing no obvious hints of any brewing storm clouds as Harry forced some smiles and chatted with his brother happily, while Meghan's body language was mainly about a quite bridal and appropriate signals of coyness, deference, and what looked like, with her eye expression, with her raised eyebrows as she looked at Harry, a lot of excitement about the life that was to come for them. However, if we look more closely at the body language, it does show up some hints that Harry in particular might have already been getting tetchy, a bit of resentment maybe, about being relegated to a place behind or beside and to one side of William and Kate. He's got his new fabulous fiancée there, this beautiful actress from America, and he would clearly want to impress her. And instead of that, he wasn't really impressing her with his royal status at this point, because it was back to protocol for Harry. Meghan, we can see clinging lovingly, it's called a limpet cling, to Harry's arm. I wonder about her choice, was it her choice, of a rather dull-coloured beige and mushroom outfit that even saw her getting lost behind the late Queen, who was in this brilliant tangerine, and Kate in her very fierce, bright tartan. And while William and Kate walked crowdside, absorbing all of the coos from the fans, this probably to Harry should have been Harry and Meghan's main moment. And there they were walking either third in from the crowd or maybe even pushed a bit behind some of the other royals. Meghan was not showing that though. I mean, she was completely appropriate. She had her head bowed in a slightly shyer, coyer look and gently bobbing as she glanced again shyly in the crowd's direction. This was sort of, she was new to the country. What's her reception going to be like? I think they knew that they were becoming extremely popular, but it wasn't a given at that point. The pressure to impress on this royal outing created some very active, very sweet, very friendly socialising from Meghan. Her curtsy to the Queen was very contained, nothing like that comedy curtsy that she performed in their documentary years later. Her head was fully bowed as she bent at the knee, and she was even clutching, we can see her clutching a bag in front of her body with both hands, in a slightly nervous looking barrier as the higher ranking royals arrive. As Harry and Meghan walked or stood together, we can see Meghan's fingers curled around Harry's bicep with the engagement ring fully on show, fully on display. And we can see that their torso touch rituals looked intense. We can see their upper arms were fully in contact as they were pressing together. So that would probably be read as a sign of Meghan feeling a little bit vulnerable on one of her first outings as a soon-to-be member of the royals. Meghan was also frequently eye-checking Harry to suggest that she was taking her lead from him. She's checking to see what she should do next. Although we can see signs of the confidence that we obviously know now, she still managed to sort of turn around and do a shy wave to the crowd. So a nice little connection with the public. On the surface, we've got William and Harry still very much behaving like that solidly bonded sibling double act that we always knew and love. Harry, we could see chatting very keenly. I mean, there's a lot of leaning across, talking to Kate, talking to William, and as they spoke, both of them are grinning. So there's no real sign of any change here from what we know about the brothers. It was all good bonding, good friends, maybe a bit of banter. Even subliminally at this point, we can see them as they come out of the church, mirroring each other's movements in a subconscious, because they're not together, they're not consciously copying each other, but a subconscious expression of synchronized sibling bonding here. So very, very close at this point. But it was also coming out of the church service that we began to see the first possible body language signs of what might have been some tension from Harry begin to appear, suggesting some expectation that he might have been getting increasingly a bit unhappy with his role as the spare, now that he had a new bride-to-be to impress. We can particularly see in close-up a moment when Meghan turned to chat to Kate, and they're engaged in the conversation, but then William joins in, and then it's William that seems to, quite understandably, take her full attention. Now, Harry, meanwhile, is trying to talk to Meghan, and it looks from his body language as though he's trying to let her know what's going to happen next. You're going to go down the stairs, you're going to do the curtsy, etc. So he looks as though he's rather importantly doing a mini induction course for his bride-to-be. But there is a point where Meghan's sort of turning one way, turning the other way, and there's a point when she almost seems to ignore Harry in what looks like an act of polite deference to his status superior brother, to listen to an enthusiastically chatting William. And again, you know, was this a point that might have reminded Harry of his spare tag? Harry, during this outing, did look like a man in love, though, for a lot of the time. We can often see that rounded-cheeked smile of a man who had clearly found the love of his life. But there were also moments when he was a bit oddly dour or tense, frequently had his hands not just in his pockets, but stuffed in his pockets, and perhaps suggesting that inwardly this relegation to the back rows, particularly with a new bride-to-be that he wanted to impress, might not have suited him, it might not have been to his liking. Even his coaching of Meghan here, because that's what it looks like when he's speaking to her on the steps, it involves some very emphatic, demanding signals and a sense of firmness. I mean, Meghan was an actress, she could easily take direction, she doesn't need a lot of telling what to do, presumably, but he's really, really briefing her here. And what that seems to do is to bring about some quite speedy emotional changes of her facial expression, and that suggests that she was feeling a bit of tension as well when it came to this induction process in royal protocol. So a year later, 2018, the next Christmas walk to church, the mood music had changed quite dramatically. Meghan and Harry's body language had changed a lot. They may have looked like they were dressed for a funeral here, but their power dynamic as a couple and as a very popular royal couple was reflected in their confidence rituals. They have very equal status posture together here. There's less of that clinging from Meghan, less of the face-checking Harry. This is now a confident bride to a confident prince, and they presumably, to look at their body language, they're aware that yes, we've done it, we've cracked it, we're popular, we're a very popular royal couple. And that also reflects in their more personal approach to the fans. It's like they're greeting friends rather than, oh, hope you like me. Meghan was pregnant here, of course, although there was still posted inwards from William and Kate, they're still walking in the same place. If we look at the lineup, we've got Meghan walking with a very upright bearing and throwing frequent, very congruent smiles, very emphatic waves at the crowds as though to acknowledge their support. Harry and Meghan were more evenly synchronised in showing their power signals as a couple as well, so very well balanced at this point. The cloud that hung over this outing, though, was the pressure for Kate and Meghan to perform a denial pose or ritual, i.e. Engage in a body language performance that would disprove and dispel any rumours, and there were lots of them, of a rift between the two royal wives. This is sort of something the royals don't do very much. I remember when Diana and Charles were married and their marriage was breaking down, I remember there was some huge, well, I won't use the word effort, but they were told to play together nicely and look as though, no, this is not true, we're happy together. And that was very painful to watch because it was clear from their body language that they weren't. This is the first time I remember anything like that since then. Meghan's bouncier, more assertive and upbeat body language here, though, did sort of suggest that the onus was going to be much more on Kate to take the lead in this denial ritual than Meghan herself. Meghan, we can see, had now perfected the royal smile, and although she kept her hand looped in Harry's arm, no longer any need for her to stay attached with the torsos and as I said, that slightly vulnerable look that we'd seen the year before. The lineup of William, Kate, Meghan and Harry, and remember that the cameras were straight on them here because everybody was waiting for the denial, but the lineup that we saw was suggesting that the Sussexes were now seeing themselves as power equals to William and Kate with matching confidence signals, and no one banished to the back row. Nobody puts baby in the corner here. It was Kate then who moved across to Meghan to perform that smiling chat for the cameras. Meghan, though, retained her hold on Harry's arm, and she kind of leant her head as though prepared to listen to what was being said, and she obviously smiled. But if you notice, she was carrying her bag in between herself and Kate, which pretty much a barrier ritual. So the idea of full rapport was pretty much missing from this ritual as it was being performed. Kate gave good body language, I mean, full effort from her, but the gesture did look forced, and it looked over obvious that this was, here we go, this is where we're going to deny everything for the cameras. And of course, historically, we all know this, it was soon made clear that those rumours did indeed have legs. There was an interesting point here, though, because nobody noticed. It was almost like a smoke, a veil thrown over the men, because everybody was looking at the women. And while they were busy posting this public denial, so many fans missed out on the lack of any agreeableness or bonding signals between William and Harry. The impression that was given was like, oh look, we're close brothers, these women have fallen out, it's up to them to make it up, it's nothing to do with us, we're blokes. But in actual fact, as we know now, and as the subtler signals, well actually they weren't so subtle, were showing us back then, they were the ones that probably had the real traumatic rift going on. They walked on either side of the lineup, and there was no sightings of any of their signature signs of playfulness or even friendly engagement or acknowledgement.